Everyone's coming in.
Okay.
We'll just start. How are you guys doing today? How are the panelists feeling?
Doing
Good.
well.
How you guys doing?
Doing well.
It's officially summer.
It is.
Finally.
Except for that rain last night. Wow, what a way to start the season.
I know. Well, Gwen's in California, so she
You don't have any rain. Never mind.
We have something here called May Gray June Gloom. So
Yes.
it's very gloomy in the morning, and then it kind of burns off by about usually now, and then it kind of comes in back again like in the afternoon.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have our attendees rolling in. We're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for our really good recovery series with Ashley Addiction Treatment. We have some really wonderful panelists today talking about mental health. So we know May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are here to tackle a topic that touches all of us, especially those on a journey to recovery, which is managing stress. And to be honest, I think anybody can benefit from this panel, but today we're going to be really focused on the recovery component of it, how it can prevent relapse, and give everybody some tools to take away to practice mindfulness in a stress-free life. So I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I'd like for you guys just to share a little bit about yourself, whatever comes to mind. We're going to start with Joe. If you could just share your name and a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Kopasek, and I am a counselor at Ashley Addiction. I've been here about a little over 4 years. I spent a couple years in methadone before that. And I used to be a DJ in my former life. I did that for 20 some years and did every drug known to man, drank like a fish, came to the end of myself, found God. Next thing you know, here I am. So it's been an incredible journey, and I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Thank you, Joe. We're happy to have you here.
Thank
Gwen.
you.
Hi, my name's Gwen Dittmar. I am originally from Philadelphia, and I live here in Santa Monica, California. And I came out here doing a geographic. I call myself like a high functioning alcoholic. I kept it all together, even though I was a total mess inside. And I thought things would be different if I came out here, and lo and behold, all of my issues and problems followed me here 3,000 miles away. And so I realized there was something that I needed to do, something very different. And that's what led me to realizing that I needed to stop using and drinking, and set me on a really great path of spirituality and heart-centered work. I do coaching, I do breath work, I do human design, energy healing, shamanic energy medicine, and I love supporting people and really returning to the truth of who they are. Thanks, Hillary.
I love that. Thank you, Gwen. And last but definitely not least, Mario.
Hey, everyone. My name is Mario Diurno. I'm a person in long-term recovery. And for me, that means I haven't used a mind-altering substance since October 10th, 2014. And I love to have fun. I love live music. I've recently just got back into the gym, so I love that. I love people, and I'm really happy to be here and honored. I work for Release Recovery. You see that? And I've been working in recovery addiction in some fashion for probably about the last 10 to 12 years. And at Release, we are a full service recovery shop. We do, a slew of things, from transports to sober living to detox to everything. But Hillary, thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be on this panel with my fellow panelists.
I'm so excited to have you. This is a good one. One, because I adore everybody on this panel, and two, because it's such a great topic. And I can't wait for everyone to share their wisdom and hear what we have to say. So Mario, we are going to start with you. Sharing the work that you do with Release, and you do such incredible work in helping others, transport them to sober living, or to treatment and coaching, and companionship. Like you do a lot for other people. So how do you stay kind of mindful and present while helping everybody else? How do you stay really grounded and present?
Hi, Hillary. Thank you. That's a great question. So, I mean, like today, I'm off today. Um, the the alcoholic addict in me wants to just like not be off and wants to just keep going and going and going and like the Energizer Bunny. I'd say I have to put up some boundaries and some really put up, to really listen to my body and to really hone in on self-care. And it's been a struggle, I'm not gonna lie to you. But like today I went to the gym, meditated, I did a sauna, I did a cold plunge, kind of easy. And then I'll hit a meeting tonight. Because the biggest thing I tell people when they want to get into this recovery space in terms of for work is that like this is not, for me anyway, this is not your personal recovery. So it's almost like I recommend that you have to work twice as hard in a way sometimes because it takes a lot out of you.
I love that. That's really important. I think what you said is that just because you work in the space doesn't mean that's contributing to your recovery, and you have to kind of own that. And what an amazing day you've had. I love that self-care.
Not bad for a Tuesday.
It's so Joe, I want to talk about you. You talk about this transitioning from a DJ into a mental health professional, which is inspiring and such a career shift and change for you, for anybody. But how did your own experience with addiction and recovery shape your approach to now helping others manage their stress?
Yeah, great question. And when I look back on my journey through everything, one, I never realized how stressed out I was. I used to pride myself on thriving in chaos, not realizing that I was burning the candle at both ends with everything I was doing. And I was using drugs and alcohol as my go-to mechanism to do it all and then do more. And that eventually, everything came crashing down eventually because I became, over time, just more and more irritable, aggressive, not fun to be around. And I started losing people, losing friends. And that's when I had to get real with myself and say, like, what's going on? Like, what am I going to do? And I went on a bit of a spiritual journey, not really knowing God, not really knowing what to think about God, raised in the Catholic Church, but not involved in any way. And just sort of started praying and telling people jokingly, hey, I'm looking for God. If you see him, tell him I'm looking for him, right? Real facetious. But lo and behold, I had a spiritual awakening. I had a neighbor share Jesus with me, and it had a profound impact on me, on my life. And then next thing you know, I got hooked up with a local church. I started helping out, doing volunteer work for homeless people or people that just needed help getting a job or food or whatever. And I like to look at my journey from DJing to recovery and being a therapist as one of picking up the breadcrumbs of life. It's like I just look for the open windows, the open doors. What is someone saying to me? Where are they leading me? Is this a good thing? I'm going to check it out. I'll explore it. And if the path is free and easy and clear, I go with it. If it's a hard sell where I have to bang my head against the wall, I say to myself, no, this can't be the right thing. So my journey from the dark raves and nightclubs to Ashley is one of just continuous curiosity, continuous learning, continuous being open to being disciplined and coached and steered in the right direction. And yeah, it's when I got hooked up with the church, the pastor's sister was running this connection center, and she says, hey, you're really good with the people. You should talk to my husband who runs a recovery center in Fells Point. Okay, I did that. He hires me on the spot. Sometime later, I'm working at the center again with the pastor's sister, and she's like, have you thought about going back to school? You're really good with these people. No, I don't have any money. I couldn't do that. Just go check it out, she says. So I do. I walk away, signed up for 2 classes at full financial aid. I'm like looking above, like, all right, I hear you, God. That's what we're doing. And, I jumped onto that leg of the journey, and it landed me a degree, and it landed me a job in a methadone clinic. And then I just kept looking for the open doors in my life. And that's how I got here.
I love that. Little questions, right? Like whether it's universe, God, source, spirit, like whatever we call it, we keep getting these little hits, and it's like what to do with them. And I love how you describe that as kind of like walking through the door. Gwen, you've kind of had a shift in your professional career as well. Going from a pharmaceutical and biotech background into spirituality and coaching and human design and breath work. And I love all the work that you're doing with people in this space. And you also shared you had a near-death experience at 14.
Yes, I
Is that
did.
right? How has all of this shaped your approach to how you work with people in reducing stress and helping them navigate life's challenges?
Yeah. I mean, I am really grateful that I experienced that near death, because it kind of did two things. It was a catch-22. It did really make me not fear death. It really allowed me to understand like this whole process of life and of rebirth and death, and and I also learned a lot about people who are suffering with something, and it maybe looked fine. I looked fine on the outside, but the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And so I already had, I think, the ism inside of me, and so having that near death, like, it really made me, I kind of took it to where, somebody with ism takes it to. I realized, God, I have no promise of tomorrow. Like, I have to live today as if it were my last day that I'm alive. And I kind of lived every day that way. And so I worked hard, I played hard, I did everything like really, really big and really intense. And I think that just kind of, while it did help me stay very successful, quote unquote, on paper, and what we would think in life, I just finally got to a point where I realized, like, even though I feel like, and I went down that path because I was initially going to go, get my PsyD. I was going to, I wanted to do research. I wanted to help people who were sick with illnesses. I ended up taking a different path into the pharmaceutical and the biotech research. And while I really loved a lot of it, again, I just kept feeling like all this success that I was feeling on the outside, I didn't feel it on the inside. I didn't feel this reward that I was looking for. I didn't feel this connection. And I think there was that void. And so, I think like the near death, like, it taught me that there is something so visceral that is, whatever it is called, whatever, we feel called to call it, there is something so divine. There is divinity. And, that divinity, I think, is what I was seeking. Not just in, having had it in a near-death experience, but I wanted to feel that every day. I wanted to feel it like all the time. And I was looking in the wrong places for it. And so, getting sober and learning all these different tools, I remember one of the first mentors that I had, like, for spirituality and kind of more spiritual medicine. I had a really beautiful experience with that mentor, and it was non-drug induced and it was very real. It was very, very real. And I just remember saying, like, oh my God, like, that's what it felt like when I was on the other side. And, he said to me, he's like, you can feel that way every day. Like, you can feel that way all the time. And I said, no, that's not possible. He's like, yes, it is. He's like, it doesn't mean that you're not going to still be human and have human challenges and problems. And he's like, or emotions, but it's that part becomes smaller. And this bliss and this divinity that you're looking to experience, like, that will be the larger portion of your life. And that's how you're going to know when you're on track and when you're not on track. So I think for me, breathing, being still, being in nature, meditating, praying, those are a lot of things that allow me to really be connected to that divinity that's inside of me, inside of all of us, even in, chaos, or what we call human life. Human experience, right? Like, I feel very peaceful today, even though, right, I have one child vomiting at home. I had another child going to school, like, we just came off of a huge trip. I have back-to-back clients today, right? I still feel like okay. I still feel like at peace. And a lot of these tools that I use right before I start my day and when I end my day really kind of bookend the day. I know in meetings I've learned a lot about bookending things, right? So if you have a scary conversation, or, Mario even shared it, like, I'm going to bookend my day with a meeting, self-care and self-care. So
I love it. And I think what the common theme among ism, for those that identify with substance use disorder, alcoholic, whatever the term is, most of us look for that external thing to fix that internal struggle or fear or concern, problem, whatever you want to label it. And what I've heard all of you say is kind of that there's something outside of us, but it's not a thing that helps us feel grounded, centered, and reduces stress, right? It's not ice cream, shopping, sex, another person, whatever it is, but it's something higher than ourselves. Can each of you talk a little bit about that, on what that looks like? I know there are different meditation, prayer, but what are some ways that you tap into that? I know, Gwen, you shared a little bit about that, to help kind of calm the inside. Mario?
Yeah. I love this.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like when I speak now, or talk to people, or share, or whatever it is, and I talk about how, like, people think I'm crazy, because if you would have told me, 20 years ago or whatever, that I'd be talking about God, or higher power so much, like, I would have told you were crazy. Now I just can't stop talking about, something bigger than me. For me, I really think, honestly, that it's actually inside of me already. Like, it's inside all of us. I don't know if you want to call it the light, or the good, the God, or the good, or whatever you want to call it, but I believe it's all inside of us. It's about tapping into it. And for me, that's not, that can be very hard sometimes if there's a lot of blockages, or if there's a lot of stuff. So first I have to remove the blockages, and really stop avoiding, and that's one of the hardest things, right? Like I said, it's like, I'm a runner, I'm an avoider by nature, by default. But once I start getting into that, and really kind of removing these blockages and doing some inner work, like right now, I feel so connected to my higher power. I feel so connected to nature. And it's already been mentioned, right? Like, going outside is like one of the biggest things for me, because my disease wants me to just be in this room in the dark, or it wants me to do anything like this, or talk to you, or not pick up the phone, and not go to the gym, or go to a meeting. And so for me, it's like getting outside is a big thing. Honestly, like talking to trees. I really started talking to trees, you know what I mean? Like being one with nature. But really what it does is it helps, tap into that inner resource that's in here. And so there's a straight, almost like a straight pipeline to whatever that is up there,
I love that. I recently told my son, I said, trees take away sadness and transmute it into love. And he looked at me, he's like, he's 7, he'll be 7 tomorrow. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, if you hug a tree, it takes out all that, and the roots go into the earth, and then Mother Nature just transmutes that into love and spreads it in. And he was like, so I'm sure he goes to, his Lutheran school. And they're like, your mother, like, what is she talking about? But I love that.
Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing about that, Hillary, too, is like, if there's something that, I don't want to tell anybody, I can tell the tree or the nature, whoever, who are they going to tell? They're not going to snitch. Nobody. Who are they going to share with?
Well, and it's so beautiful too, because there's like, Chinese medicine, or like Ayurvedic medicine. There's like different, lineages of ancient philosophy and medicine. They like have confirmed this and believe this, right? That like when we bring wood or we bring sadness and we like connect to the elements, to the emotions that we're feeling, there's a very real synthesis that happens inside of our body. So of course, talk to trees. Of course, hug trees. Yes.
Yeah, I love this.
You
Oh,
guys are reminding me of a roommate I had a long time ago, and he used to work in a bank. And every night he came home, he took the long way. And I said, "Why do you do that?" He goes, "You can just take the highway and be here in 10 minutes, but you take the back roads and drive 20, 30 minutes." And he goes, "Joe, you don't understand. That job is so stressful. And I put up with all this stuff from these people all day long, and it's just piling on me, and I can't take it. So when I drive, I go through God's country, and I got the trees on the left and the right, and the roads are winding and curving, and all that filth and muck just falls off me, lands on the trees. And by the time I get home, I feel much better."
Wow.
And I've always resonated with that, because when I get off work, a lot of times I race home and I have a good drive in front of me, but I do my best to, because I have the same thing. I'm dealing with patients all day long, and I'm taking on their story, and a lot of it's pretty bad, you know? It's why they're here. And I'm carrying that, and I'm carrying it for them. And it's me taking it off them that helps them get free. But what do I do with it, you know? And so I try my best to, engage my own self-care routine. And one of that is just going home, grabbing my dog, running or driving straight to the park, and we go for a hike. I'm fortunate that I live in Baltimore, by the way. I'm fortunate that I'm 10 minutes from one of the best state parks that we have, and I can get right on the trail. And I do the same thing. I start walking. I got my dog, who's my buddy, right? And I'm just on the trails. I'm hiking, and all the crap's just falling off me. And then, of course, I engage in prayer. I talk like you're talking to the trees. I look at it more like I'm having a conversation with God as I'm walking through. Like, hey, here's how my day went, you know. But like, I treat him like a person, like he's right there with me, and I'm having this conversation, and all the muck and the filth's falling off, and it's very, very therapeutic, I think.
yeah, I love that. So remember in early recovery, and it's something that I've held on to. It says, praying is asking God, universe, source, whatever, for help. And
Mhm.
meditation is taking the answers in. And so it's like practicing both of those, because you can kind of hear them. But what I hear kind of all of you saying is this community in a way, right? Whether it's trees or God running next to you, or, people. Can you talk about how important community is to each of you in recovery? As well as, there's also this, which I believe in, relapse prevention, right? Like having a community of people around you that support you, that see you for who you are, that appreciate what you're doing, is also really helpful in that relapse prevention. So can you talk a little bit about, Gwen, we'll start with you, how community plays a huge role in stress reduction, in your life?
Yeah, I think, for me, because of a lot of the trauma connected to, family or community, I kind of became very hyper individualized and became like, I will do it on my own. I can do it on my own. I will power through on my own, and I do think there's different personality types that, maybe need more alone time or less alone time than others. But I do feel like, we are, humans are, we're a very primal being, right? We are very primal. We're mammalian. We came here together. we didn't, evolve by ourselves. We evolved like as a tribe. And so I think there is something so healing about being in connection and being in a community. And I definitely know, like, just from doing a lot of nervous system regulation work and energy work and also like breath, and being able to see, the different energy that's present when a group of people are breathing, and how every group is so unique based on the people and what they're bringing to the to the breathing group, but that, that they co-create it together, right? It's a different group every single time based on who they are that day that they come. And then also too, they get to co-regulate with one another. So I think like when there's, like Joe was kind of saying, when there's, a really strong container that's like holding an energy of I am safe, I am calm, I love myself, I love higher power, like higher power loves me. I am one, we are one. When someone like is bringing that energy, right, then everybody gets to drop into that and starts to feel it. And it can be challenging to do that when you're just by yourself. And if you're, working through a lot of things with your own mental health or with stress, or right, your nervous system is really dysregulated. I've just noticed it's so empowering to be with another person. I remember one of my first coaches said to me, Michael Neal, he was like, all you have to do is be the lamppost. Just stand there and shine the light and just see the light that's down below, right? And just continue holding that light and be the lamppost for people. You don't even have to say much other than just channeling inside, like, I see you, I love you, God bless you, like, peace be still. And like people will start to feel that energy if you keep holding that energy for them. So I definitely think community is huge. And for me as somebody that it took me time to really open up and feel trusting of the community, of the connections, because there had been a lot of trauma around that. So I think it can be like a beautiful thing for, recovery and mental health and, stress reduction. And it's also really important to start attuning to your intuition of like what feels right for you in a community and what doesn't feel right for you. Right. I'm really honoring that too.
I love it's like honoring your unique voice. Like
Yeah.
that we're all, perfect the way, well, we all have work, but we're good. Like the way we are is acceptable. Like we should, feel love for the way we are. Mario, I know that you have a huge community and I know how important community is to you. Can you share with everybody here what it means to you and how, important it's been for you in your recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Gwen said. I could second everything she said as well. But without community, I'm not here. Like, period, point blank. Like, I'm not here. It first started with my neighborhood. Like, I was talking about this earlier, actually, at a different meeting. But I would go to my neighbor's house, and we would, I guess you would call it trauma bond. Now, I don't know what we would do, but we would protect each other because, like, what was going on in her house and what was going on in my house, there was a lot going on. And so, not even knowing it, we were there for each other. When her mom or her family was going, whatever was going on, which I would be there for her. And so like it started like that. And then with team sports, it was always like team sports were a big thing. Anything. I just craved human connection. And I once heard that too. It was like, we are gregarious creatures, like we're not meant to be alone. Like Gwen said it. I think now, it's important that I actually am comfortable being alone and that I do like to actually spend some time with myself. But I mean, coming into recovery was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. When I first entered, I was 23, and that's what got me first. It wasn't, because I didn't trust anyone. I wasn't around a lot of people for a long time. I used substances in isolation. At the end. And so coming into this big community that was totally free, and they were like, open arms. It was very weird. It was scary. But it's probably the single most important thing that could ever have happened to me. And it's crazy because I'm terrible at relationships. Now it's like I have 20-year relationships with some of those still people that, I mean, unfortunately, the ones that are still alive, and thriving, but it's some of my best friends today. Like, they're family. Like, I'm closer with them than my actual family. And then along the way, I mean, recovery is such a beautiful thing that I've traveled and, I have friends in all kinds of different states, and it's just cool. It's like, I feel like no matter where I go, I can, call someone and like we can hang out and go to a meeting or go to a concert or a ball game or just hang. Community is very important to me. I tell everyone that when they're first coming in or they're new, I just said, find your tribe, get it. What is it? Get in where you fit in. Like, just, you got to find your people. And it doesn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for me. But once I did, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Like, this is cool. I can see this, I get this. So yeah, to me, I mean, the community has saved my life. I can't tell you how many times.
Mhm. I had that experience too when I first got sober too. There was a woman that got sober the same time as me. And for that first year, we did everything together. Like, and it was, and I agree with Mario with what you said, it saved my life because when and they also say get an outside opinion because our best thinking caused, the drinking or created the drinking. And so, but you're right. And then sometimes it evolves. I mean, Joe, can you maybe talk to that? Like, my friend that I met early in sobriety, we kind of grew apart when, now almost 17 years, things kind of change and evolve. Is that something that you see like in the recovery groups and communities? And then how important is kind of finding that community in early recovery?
Yeah. Okay. So
Two-part question.
yeah, the first part you're asking me, do I see changes in connections or changes in relationships? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're going to see changes in early recovery right out the gate because not everybody appreciates what you're doing. Not everybody's on board with you getting sober. And you put a sort of spotlight on what they're doing by just being you and being sober. It's all of a sudden they're thinking about themselves and looking at what they're doing and very self-conscious and they don't feel comfortable. So they're trying to drag you, along with them. And with that, you're going to have some people that are going to stand by your side and appreciate what you're doing and encourage what you're doing and be there for you. And sometimes it's people you never expected would be there for you. And then the people sometimes that you think would be there, they fall off. And that's one of the interesting things about recovery is just kind of seeing how things shake out. You don't really know what's going to happen, but I got to stay focused on what I'm after. I got to be focused on getting sober. I got to want this new life and I got to do everything I possibly can to get it. And if that means I lose a few friends, and so be it. Odds are, if they don't want to be there for me in the first place, they're not good friends at all. And people show their true colors. You find out who they really are when you start walking with integrity and start walking in the newness of your new life. And it's really profound when people show you who they are. And I've learned to believe people when they tell me who they are because they have no reason to hide it. And if anything, it's a protective measure. Part of it is they don't want to give up what they're doing or change themselves, and that's okay. They don't need to. Yeah, they don't need to. And but it doesn't mean that I have to. I have this rule actually that I try not to ever block anybody on Facebook, regardless of what they say or do, because in my new life I've gotten some criticism. Oh, you traded one drug for another, blah blah. Well, I'm sober and I'm happy and I'm living my best life. So shoot me for it, right? But I look at it as everything is temporary and people have mood swings and people are going through their own process of change. And maybe today they're not happy or whatever, but maybe later I could be a source of inspiration for them. So I try to keep them somewhere on the radar, so to say, hoping that the relationship can be reestablished or restored. Or if not, then that's okay. It's not up to me. I look at it as like I do my thing. I walk with God. And I trust God for the life I have and whoever comes across my path. And the other question was about what was it again about community? How important is it?
Yeah, I'm just blown away by the not blocking people that I'm like, I'm sorry, I just want to come back to that because I love that because you're right. Like, I mean, I look at it as boundaries. Like, boundaries of keeping people out. But I love that beautiful, the way that you look at that. And that's such a beautiful way of saying, like, what if somebody, like, if they're having a bad day? And so then I'm going to switch my question then. So then how does that affect, as we're talking about stress and mental health?
Yeah.
How do you, then how do you kind of block yourself from those? If, that, like, for example, that one, that you just said, the example that you just had about people saying you traded one drug for another, how do you protect your then mental health, emotional health, stress when those things come in?
Yeah, okay, yeah, good question. I could say that, okay, for one, maybe I don't block them, because you're right, boundaries are very important, and I do believe in boundaries, and sometimes I have to enforce them. But I could, in theory, if I want to limit my contact with somebody, you can easily unfollow them, or even, I think, finagle it so that they can't follow your every move. You know, you can sort of limit what they see or what I see. I can do that as a protective measure. And usually what I find is that people don't really follow up. Occasionally you have someone that's just sort of hateful and spiteful, and they will chime in every chance they get. But maybe I tailor what I'm posting or sharing for a season, for a period of time. You know, let things cool down, what have you. But I try not to let people rule me or dictate what I think, feel, and share, you know, because I know who I am at the end of the day. I know where I'm going. I know the God that I serve and believe in. I know what I've been through for recovery. I know what it took to get here. You know, it was a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of trials, right? And so I take all that into consideration. And you could say that my walk with God gives me more empathy for people like that. It gives me the ability to take what they're giving me and hold it in grace. And then that reflects with my patients at Ashley. I have the ability to hear some hard things, some tough things, to put up with what we call resistance, or denial. They don't want to hear what I have to say, or they don't want to face the truth. But it's similar to the person on Facebook who has a bad attitude. It's just they're in denial about something, and that's okay. We call it rolling with the resistance. you know. But yeah, so it's I want to say also, I would probably have to weigh each case separately. I had one guy that, I don't know what happened. He just kind of flipped out, and he just started attacking me. This was years ago. And I landed in California on a trip, and I checked my phone. I had all these notifications from this one guy, and he was just going at me and, cursing me out. I blocked him immediately. I was like, you're not going to ruin my vacation. I don't need this. I don't know what happened. I haven't talked to the guy since, but like I said, case by case, you weigh it out. But by and large, I want to give people grace, because I know what I went through. I know the hell I was in, and I know we're all not much different. We all have our own journey, so to say.
It's really beautiful and remarkable. And I think what came up for me when you were saying that is like authenticity, right? So if we're living in our authentic truth and being authentically who we are, then those kind of things from other people, we kind of have that barrier, whether it's God, source, the unit, whatever it is protecting us, because we feel
Right.
really grounded in who we are. Does that sound
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely. Yeah. It's having that full assurance of your identity, of who you are, what your walk is. What are you doing in this life? Where are you heading? And
Mhm.
if you're confident in that, like I am, you can't be shaken. You
Yeah,
can't be
I
shaken.
mean, I really acknowledge you, Joe. That's kind of what I was like. It was like a felt sense when you were talking of just like, I know who I am. I know where I've been. I know what I've gone through. I know what I've done to get to where I am now. And like, I am at peace with like all of it. I just acknowledge you, and like, what a gift for people to be able to sit with you and to be able to like regulate, into that. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So we have about 15 minutes left, and I'm just going to say to everybody in the audience, if you guys have a question, we have a question in the Q&A, drop it into the Q&A section of the Zoom, and we'll get to that in probably the next 7 minutes. But we're gonna get a couple more questions for you guys, about stress, because I think stress is one of those things that kind of triggers, a desire to go outside of ourselves and look for something to kind of fix that. Right. And Joe, what you were saying too, like the blocking somebody, like that seems really volatile. Like they were approaching you with anger and volatility. And so that was, that really great boundary. But when stress does come up, we've talked a couple of things. What are 3 of your top favorite things, or the 3 of the most profound things that you do? That's the first part of the question. And then the follow-up is, how do you know once you've and I think we all know, kind of drop into that parasympathetic, right? Out of that fight or flight nervous system, stressful, ick, into that calm, because sometimes I think we can all agree, sometimes it's okay, 30 seconds. Sometimes, 10 minutes later, we're still like, a little squirrely up. So top 3 ways that you deal with that. And then what is kind of that aha moment when you realize you're in that space? Gwen.
Mm. Oh, um, I would say there is like a new tool that I've been using because I did go through quite a bit of stress, like one thing kind of right after another. Like my mom had cancer, right? She died. We got separated. There was a divorce. Our dog died. Then there was a pandemic. My ex-husband got cancer. I mean, it was just then we discovered the mold in our house. We lost everything. We were displaced. We had to move. So it was just literally one thing after another. And I hadn't been in that much stress. I mean, obviously there's been stress, right? Of course. But it was just literally like one thing after another. And I had not felt that squirrely just inside of my own head, inside of my own emotions, my own body, and even like somewhat disconnected from, spirituality and kind of even also kind of disconnected from community because I was like in fight or flight mode, but luckily I've been able to use this this kind of tool. It's like a limbic retraining tool to kind of like stop, right? Like the thoughts. And kind of, acknowledge, the younger part of me or whatever part of me is trying to like fix or solve things, right? And like also look to like the wise part of me that is there and that knows how to make great choices and can be, grounded and calm and centered. And almost like kind of doing that really helped me a lot when I was like healing, from like the mold poisoning and just a lot of what felt like I had never felt like that since probably when I was like in the thick of my, alcoholism 19 years ago. But also too, for me, I think a big tool is like stopping what I'm doing. So if it's like a stressful, right, all those stressful messages coming in, like Joe talked about, or stressful emails, right, from maybe people in your life that you can't just cut out, or like I just stop what I'm doing and I go outside, full circle back to what Mario was talking about. And I go for a walk or I take my shoes off and I put my bare feet in the earth to ground myself, to bring all this chaotic energy that's up here or like anxiety that's here and drop it down into the earth. And I do, like you said to your son, I give it to the earth. And then I usually will be out there and I'll breathe, I'll just do like four breathing or I'll do box breathing. And really kind of try to look like outside of myself. So look at like, what are 3 things that I can see? What are 3 things I can hear? What are 3 things I can taste? What are 3 things that I can feel to kind of like bring myself out of my head and out of the stress and out of like the somatic of it and kind of bring myself back down into my body, so that I'm present. I would say like those are probably really, really useful tools that helped me in, recent past years. And then I'm just trying to think like literally on the spot. I mean, I definitely like get down on my knees on the spot and I pray. I really do. Like, I just ask, like, I'm like, I typically do say the first 3 steps. Like, I'm like, this feels unmanageable. And I believe in something greater than me that can really help me. And I'm turning my will over to that thing to help me get like right-minded, right-hearted, right-spirited. I would say those are like, yeah, probably the 3 things.
Those are great takeaways. And how do you know when you shift? Is there a moment? Is there exhale?
I think like I can feel it in my body, I can kind of feel like, you know, either my heart isn't racing or my mind isn't spiraling, or, you know, I can actually take in like what's happening around me. You know, and I would say like in worst case scenarios, you know, obviously like I don't want to have to rely on community, but it is a big part of, you know, my sobriety of like, you know, sometimes there is somebody else to call, right? To just like co-regulate, to get grounded, to get that feedback. So I would say that the way that I know is that I can like turn the situation into an opportunity. You know, I can kind of see like, okay, why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me? Like I'm not a victim of this. What's the opportunity here? Like what can I learn? What can I, you know, what's the learning here? Like what opportunity am I being given to set the boundary and regulate myself, or not feel bad for saying no, or you know, not being okay with what other people think about me. You know, like I felt like Joe really, you know, touched on that. Like I know who I am. I know what's true for me. I know what my path is, and you know, I'm turning it over to something greater than me. So I usually, yeah, I will feel calmer. I'll be able to think clearly. I'll be able to look for the opportunity in the experience. And I think sometimes too, laughter. I think laughter is really helpful, you know, like don't be the glum lot, you know?
Thank you so much. Mario, top three.
I don't know. I mean, Gwen just covered it all.
Great.
Like I'm listening, like taking notes. Like this is a learning experience for me. I loved it. I mean, the most effective thing that I've learned is to just stop, slow down, just take a time out. I mean, my dad used to say it, rest in peace, right? Like he would say when I was a kid, just take a time out. Really stop. The old like move a muscle, change a thought has been with me throughout.
That's great.
Read, you know, meditate, just some deep breaths. It doesn't, and that's the one thing, right? I'm becoming more comfortable with is it doesn't have to look a certain way, you know, like for me anyway, right? Like it's not like it has to be this way, you know, and that way. Like, no, I'm really trying to pay attention to my body and to my spirit. And so if it's breathing, I'll breathe, you know, and it's just whatever feels right, you know. And if I'm talking to God, it's yo, bro, what's up? You know, it's not for, you know, like, dude, come on, you know, or but I really have found just kind of slowing down, putting it down, you know, because I'm the type of person I am. I want to continue to like choke that thing or whatever, you know, continue to like enforce my will onto whatever's going on, right? And to put that square peg in that round hole. And I've noticed like through recovery, I'm getting a little bit better of just kind of like, no, Mark, just stop, put it away, go that way, you know, put some music on, get outside. And also, so the most I'd say is slow down. Cold packs, cold ice, cold water really helps if you want like an immediate, for me, that always does a trick. And I'd say the third one is honestly just treat yourself. You know, sometimes it's like treat yourself a little bit, you know, maybe go get your favorite snack, or you know, go do something that you enjoy doing that's going to kind of just forget about what's going on for a minute, and then revisit it. And for me, I know like when I do that, my attitude and my energy towards that is usually much different than it was, you know, 2 hours ago. Much easier said than done, but I think it's like slow down, music, and like treat yourself, and just really just remember, right? Like I have to love myself, right? I really have to show self-compassion, self-love, and really be kind to myself before I can really do anything other than that. So I love this. I could talk about this all day.
I know. I love those answers too. And Joe.
Yeah, that was great.
You're-
All of you both have such really great ideas, and I'm not sure I can add too much more, but I think I have something. I want to say first that I have learned to prioritize sleep. I cannot praise sleep enough. Sleep is so important. If I don't have sleep, I can't function. I'm going to get irritable. I'm going to get short. I'm not going to function well.
Mm.
And I'm learning this so well that I recently stayed in an Airbnb and got the best sleep of my life when I was there. Then on the ride home, I pretty much bought a new mattress to match the one that I slept in. And granted, I'm not that impulsive. I did shop around, but it definitely led me down this road where, wow, I feel so much better. Sleep's got to be prioritized. And so, and I do. And I have a whole routine at night where I wind down and I try to make sleepy time tea, the extra strength with the valerian root, drink that. I try to read a book. I try to read a chapter from a book to like help me wind down. And reading the book is really helpful for peace because I'm getting the author speaking to me. I'm not moving. I hear in both of you a theme with slowing down or stopping. And I can't stress enough how important that is. We need to stop moving. We're constantly on the go. And we need to refill our tanks. And I was thinking earlier about that idea of refilling our tanks. Even a car has to stop moving in order to refill the tank. You know what I mean? Like we have to stop moving. And I find that that's where I can hear from God. It's like when I stop moving, it's like when you mentioned earlier about meditation versus prayer, it's like I'm talking or I'm listening. You know, we tend to talk more than we listen. And so when we stop moving, we give space and allow that to happen. I also like to do yoga. Yoga has been instrumental to my recovery path. It's the first thing I discovered, and it taught me discipline. We say that what you learn on the mat, you take into the world. So I'm in a really hard pose, like Warrior 2 for 2 minutes, and I'm cussing out the teacher. That's okay. Later, when I'm in line at the grocery store and it's 5-10 people deep, and the first person needs a supervisor, I can stand there and deal with it. And I breathe through it, and I'm like, whatever, I got this. But I think in the moment, and my colleagues will tell me, they can tell when I'm stressed because I show it, I exude it. Sometimes an email might come across, too quick, and I'm like, Joe, what's going on? They catch me, and I'm thankful to have a team that is so collaborative and caring and loving that they will stop and talk to me and say, Joe, what's going on? Can we talk about this? And then I can get back in check and then reassess and implement some things to correct, And I have learned also that where I'm at today versus where I was 10 years ago, it is nothing short of a miracle that I am here, even doing this with you guys right now. Like, wow, who would have thought 10 years ago I could have beat addiction, gotten degrees, and ended up in a place like this? So when I'm stressed and when it's bad, I have to say to God, you didn't bring me this far to drop me, to leave me out to hang. You know what I mean? And so that confidence, again, in who I am and what God's done for me in my life helps me to get through those really stressful situations and know that even though this is hard, there's going to be a way through it. And I just hold fast through it.
Those are so good. And Joe, great job bringing up the rear, because I was like, man, Gwen, and then Mario had great ones. I'm like, sorry, Joe, I don't know, but those were amazing. Those are all really helpful, and I think you guys each delivered. But that slowness was kind of consistent through everything. So we have a couple of questions and a couple of minutes. Gwen, first one comes to you. How does your spirituality intertwine with your mental health?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like they are, well, I would say, like, again, that more recent experience that I went through, I did not feel like my mental health was as strong as it always had been. And even when I was, when I was in my like alcoholism, I still had like this, I don't know what to call it, just kind of like this drive for something. And that like was not really there, and it felt like really scary for me. So I feel like it's like equal parts. I feel like we are equal parts human and, divine. And so I had to make sure that I was doing things to take care of like my thinking and my thoughts. And it was really interesting too. I would say, because I got very curious. I'm like, obviously the pharmaceutical biotech research, that part of me, the researcher, the experimenter, the scientist, like I got very interested in like, what is going on? Because I feel so different, and, lo and behold, I did like some neurofeedback brain maps, and I did, different things to see what was going on, like with my actual brain. And it wasn't just me making it up, right? Like the brain is neuroplastic. It can change into, if it gets stuck in a fight or flight, repetitive, sympathetic state, and then it can also kind of reorganize itself into, right, like all of us have said, I never would have been able to speak 19 years ago with a group of people. I was too shy, I was too self-conscious, I was too insecure, I was too mired by perfectionism and guilt and shame. So the great news is like we can rewire, so I feel like there's equal parts mental health and spirituality. Like I think it's not one or the other. And I feel like Joe shared a lot about that, both of you, and Mario, that yeah, it's important to like address what's happening, at a very human level. And then there's also like spirit is there to help us and guide us. Well, I don't know if that answers the question.
You. We have one more. What is the limbic training you did, Gwen?
Oh, it's called the Gupta program. Very, very helpful.
Thank you. All right, panelists. Any last words of wisdom? Anything that just popped in and said, "Ooh, I wish I would have shared that."
Yeah. Don't take yourself too seriously. And that's just not, that's something I am kind of blessed with, maybe a little too much, but life's, you got to ask yourself sometimes, right? Is this really that important? Like, is this gonna the end of the world? Like, no, to me, it's like my values are like family, recovery, self, spirit, helping people. It's like, keep it simple. Those old things, right? Keep it simple, stupid. That's one of the things that I learned. That's just like remind myself, like, just calm down, breathe. It's all going to be good. And don't forget to go to the beach. Beach is very helpful.
Water.
The negative ions of water. Yes.
I love that.
I would add that it's stress is constant. It's always going to be there. And when I look at my life and my addiction, I didn't realize back then that I was so stressed out. Now I do. Now I'm able to look at my life and it's sort of like I'm always in a constant state of analysis, like some days I come home and I go all at it with bag of Utz salt and vinegar chips and then eat ice cream. And I'm like, well, wait a second, what just happened? Why did I do that? Right. It's like self-analysis. But stress is there. And we just have to be mindful that it's going to be there and be intentional in doing things, carving things out in your day or your week that's going to help maintain it. I look at it as like we all have a pressure tank and we got to release the pressure valve every now and then, kind of like a tea kettle on the stove. It's going to whistle. We got to incrementally release the stress in our life with something. Like I make a point every Saturday to get this one yoga class in at the YMCA. It's like one thing I do and it helps. I try to get at least one hike in a week with my dog. All these things help. And another important thing is really how you start your day. A lot of my patients, I encourage them. They tell me, one guy said, "Joe, I wake up, my knees hit the floor. That's how I start the day." And I think it's very good to have an intentional way of, if you can sit alone in the quiet, get up early before other people. You have scripture, read that, journal, pray, whatever it is, but just have a little bit of quiet time before the chaos of the day begins. And it'll help you maintain throughout the day. Because like we're running a marathon. It's the marathon of life.
Thank you, Joe. Gwen, any last?
I would probably just say that I think something that really, really helped me is I'm not a human being having spiritual experiences. I'm a spiritual being having human experiences. And so to just like that always helps me right size, right? Whatever is going on in life is that like I am a divine being, like at like this whole vessel. It's just 37 trillion cells vibrating, you know, and it'll vibrate, you know, and attune to like the, you know, the frenetic of the computer or the calm of the tree and the ocean, right? Like Mario said. And so I just always look at like, okay, what is that human experience that I'm having, right? With like a difficult co-parent, or, you know, a challenging parenting situation, or, you know, like trying to detox mold out of my brain, right? What is it offering me? Like, what is my divine being seeking to learn through this experience? And so, right, whether it's like, oh, this is happening so I can learn how to be rigorous with boundaries without having to cut myself off, right? Like that I still get to be an open channel, but also get to choose. Or, you know, like, what is my child reflecting back to me that I still haven't healed about myself, right? That how can I look at this challenging parenting situation as an opportunity for me to come back to me and trust that everything will work out. Or, you know, the mold, it's like to trust my intuition. So I just feel like all of the challenge, like really hard, challenging things in life, like we can kind of hold them like they're that gift, even though they're tough.
I love this. Like Mario said, I could do this literally all day with you guys, but we are going to have to wrap it up. So thank you so much, the three of you, for jumping on, for being here, for your wisdom, for sharing, for being so open and vulnerable. Your sharing helps another person. And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Be kind.
Oh.
Love each other.
God bless you.
Love that. Bye.